This is Richard Bryant. Richard is doing a geopathic clearing on my home here. And Richard, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
Yes, geopathic clearing is a means of balancing and harmonizing electromagnetic fields. And the best way to do that is where currents occur in the terrestrial magnetism. It's all around us, but it forms currents like in the atmosphere or in the weather. So what we do is use dowsing rods and the same traditional dowsing techniques that are used to find a well. We find where the currents enter the house. Let me show you one right over here.
Okay.
This is one that we've already located, but the way it looks when we're looking for these is we're finding a flow that's like a stream that goes deep in the ground and high in the air, and when the rods cross, there we go. That indicates that's where this current is flowing, and if we hold them really still, they'll actually show us, like the weather vane, where it cuts through the house. It goes deep in the ground and high in the air. And so what we do is place a correction rod right here to cause it to split and go deep below and high above. Okay, next I'll put a correction rod in the ground and show you how that works.
Okay, awesome.
When we put a correction rod in the ground, the idea is that it's working in the same way that magnetism works. If you have a horseshoe magnet, you have just a magnet that's typical horseshoe shape like kids play with, and you take a copper wire and you put it in there at a right angle. It won't work like this, but if you get it at a 90-degree angle between the poles of that magnetic field, electricity starts to run through there. So we reverse that process and put the correction rod right in the path of this magnetic current, and that causes it to split, because the magnetism hitting this actually powers this up and makes this have a passive voltage, and that's how the magnetic current splits and is diverted from your house.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll take a minute now and dig a trench. You know my grandfather, do you know that I told you about, the one that had the farm? Well, he was a guy that worked for the oil companies all over the Midwest and Texas, and they were referred to as a wildcatter because he would be a guy that would go in with the crew that would start the well, but he was the guy that would find the place to drill.
Yeah.
And I never heard anything about it from my mom or from him, because I was too little to know him, but I bet you he was a Freemason, and I bet you he was a dowser. And all the geologists would come out and say, well, this area is good, or the overthrust belt is here in terms of geology, but he would go out and use something similar to this. Maybe it was probably a branch from a tree. And he'd look around and say, put the oil well here. And he did it well enough that that's what he did his entire career.
Wow.
So he must have been hitting...
That is amazing.
He must have been hitting some rods.
I know my grandpa used to find water wells, but nobody really talked about it, because it wasn't, it wasn't part of what was accepted, but everybody knew that he could do that, and they would have him come over and find their water.
I still have clients that are a little bit leery or afraid, and they call it water witching. It has nothing to do with witchcraft.
Right.
Okay, so we use a dowsing pendulum to adjust it right or left, because it's important to get it dialed in just in the right spot. Okay, we're there. And they don't go too deep in the soil, because the greatest voltage differential is close to the surface.
Okay.
So we put that in 3 or 4 inches beneath the surface. Cover it up. They rarely get disturbed, but sometimes a dog will sense it and say, give it up. Okay, now there's one other one to place it.
Okay.
After I figure out where it should be with the dowsing rods, I put it in the general area and then adjust it right and left to get it really in just precisely the right spot. So that's what I'm going to do now.
Okay.
Use the dowsing pendulum for that. This one needs to go a little bit to the east. lines are a neutral current, and they are a normal part of the natural energy landscape. However, when a magnetic current goes through a transformer or high voltage, it begins to conduct all kinds of unhealthy electricity. It brings that through your house. So that's why we want to divert these lines, because it's like a stream. If you had a beautiful stream on your property, but someone uphill from you was dumping gasoline into it, then it would become polluted. And that's what we're dealing with here. This is a normal part of the way energy moves in nature, and you'll find historical references in like Chief Seattle's web or Indra's web, where people that for thousands of years have known about this lattice of energy currents. And they're tied into all the sacred places and holy spots on the earth, and sacred springs and holy wells, things like that.
Wow.
Okay, now after that's done, there's one step left. That's the non-physical or like spiritual healing, where we do a clearing.
Okay. What is this diagram here?
Okay, this drawing is a footprint of the house. Here's the front door with the overhang, and here's the house itself.
Okay.
Now, we just placed a correction rod here and here. These are currents. These lines show how the currents cross and set up a rotational field or vortex, which draws to it unhealthy energies. The reason why is because these lines are natural conductors of electricity and radio frequencies, microwave, cell phone, all kinds of electrical pollution.
Wow.
And what that does is it overwhelms the tiny, tiny voltages in your cells, because when a cell operates, there's a positive charge cell wall and a negative charge, and it just takes a tiny voltage to make nutrients go in and waste go out, and that happens all day long. But if the voltage of the electricity that finds its way to these conductive magnetic currents runs through your house and sets up a field like this, this can swamp the teeny voltages that make you have normal health, just general vitality and feeling good. And this is why we say if the electromagnetic fields are in a state of imbalance, it's not going to contribute to your prosperity and well-being. We don't say that this will make you have prosperity, but it stands to reason and seems logical that if everything in your home environment's harmonious, you're just going to do better work and be more productive.
Right.
Therefore, we say prosperity is a potential that really is enhanced by doing a geopathic clearing.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I just want to make a note. So now we're going to do about a 5-minute spiritual clearing.
Yes.
A meditation together. Okay. Great. I'm going to shut this off now. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.